Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, April the 16th, 2025, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. What we're about, guys, giving you the most for your news. Because why? Because the world is messed up. That's why. Before we get started, I'll let you know we are a news podcast, which means that we do try to cite our sources reputably. Words are hard. From the sites that have award-winning journalism and research. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, The Daily Beast, whatever stream left, stream right you get your views from. We simply give you the facts and nothing but the facts. Outside of that, guys, we do try to watch our language, but words do fly. At the same time, that things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, F-47. Is in the news for multiple reasons, but we might as well start with, the first one, actually. That's going to be very, very interesting. But again, we called this a long time ago.
Man wrongly deported to El Salvador. The administration admits it was a mistake to send this man, who is a lawful resident of the United States, married to a U.S. citizen, to El Salvador. Now a judge has decided the Trump administration must provide, quote, daily updates on its efforts to return Kilmer Abrego Garcia to the United States after he was sent to El Salvador because of what the administration calls, quote, an administrative error and what a court called Kafkaesque mistake. An attorney for Abrego Garcia appeared in court this afternoon. Here's what Abrego Garcia's lawyer said outside court while calling on the White House to abide by the Supreme Court's order to return his client.
The government attorney did say that they intend to comply with the order and bring him back. That's the bare minimum. They should have done that already. They've had plenty of time between the Supreme Court's order early yesterday evening and now. He should be here in the United States. It's a 5-hour flight.
Yes. But he's not. Let's bring in our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, in Greenbelt, Maryland. So, Pierre, you were there. Tell us what happened in court and what the judge's reaction to the government's position was.
Terry, I think the most notable thing about the hearing today was how frustrated the judge actually was. She had some basic questions for the government's attorney. Number one was, where is Mr. Abrego Garcia and what is his condition? And she was clearly flustered when the attorney for the government could not answer that question, Terry. He could not answer the question. She asked him another question about exactly what steps were being taken all these days after her initial order to bring Abrego Garcia back to the United States. The government's attorney did not have an answer for that. That is why the judge ended up in the position of taking the stand that every day until they get Mr. Abrego Garcia back to this country, she wants an update to answer the questions that she put before the government. She clearly has a sense that the government is not complying intentionally, and she's pushing them to give her the answers that she wants, Terry.
Yeah, to pretty basic questions. Where is he? What's his condition? Under whose authority is? Because, Pierre, that was the Supreme Court said that order is good law. The Supreme Court, all 9 justices, upheld her order saying that this man must be returned to the United States, but the court can't tell the government how to do it. Do you get the sense that the Department of Justice is not openly defying this order, but is at least going to slow walk it and maybe not even do that much to accomplish it and obey it?
Well, the question of whether they're slow walking it is an open one. The government's attorney today, Drew Ensign, simply was saying that the government was trying to evaluate the Supreme Court's ruling. It took issue with part of the judge's interpretation of the Supreme Court ruling. The government attorney did say that they intended to comply with the Supreme Court order. But you raised a very critical question, Terry. How quickly will that take place? And again, I can't emphasize enough the level of frustration we saw from the judge when she asked that basic question: where is Mr. Abrego Garcia, and under what condition is he being held?
Yeah, a federal judge, a lot of power there, and she's having trouble exercising it over the Trump administration. Pierre?
Yeah, that's the crazy part. A man who literally is a legal citizen got deported by ICE and Homeland because, they are the new Gestapo now. Come to find out that, we made a mistake. He wasn't supposed to go. Okay. Well, in the case of Mr. Garcia, the judge simply said, why don't you return him? Department of Justice, F-47's administration, we would, but we don't. I mean, we kind of sent him off. We don't know where he is. And the judge should be pissed because, again, we called this a long time ago when we sat there and said, before he was F-47, when he was a convict, that what he wanted to do was basically appease his nationalist, racist buddies and say, hey, we're going to get rid of all people of color, except, Russians, everybody else that's light skinned, you're good. But people of color, y'all got to go. Remember, we sat there and said, and I showed the video of his border czar, who said they're just rounding up people, whether they're legal or not. He doesn't care about splitting up families. He'd rather take them all in one shot. And we sat there and said, what happens when legal citizens that just happen to be people of color get swept up in this mess? You have a person that's literally sitting, which we're going to find out is in El Salvador. He's sitting in an El Salvadorian prison because Trump believes in sending everybody to prisons overseas, or I should say in other countries for that matter. But here's the crazy part. We find out that this man is in an El Salvadorian prison because they believed he was part of a violent gang, which he was not. Man has never had convictions in Mexico or the US. And yet, when asking, mind you, the president of El Salvador, hey, why not just go ahead and release him? We shouldn't be surprised by his answer you're about to hear.
This morning, amid multiple court standoffs, the White House digging in on immigration.
We're getting him out.
The Justice Department acknowledges Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a father of three with a work permit in Maryland, was deported to a notorious prison in El Salvador as the result of an administrative error. Last week, the Supreme Court ordered the administration to facilitate his return, an order the Trump administration has so far not acted on.
That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us.
Meeting with President Trump on Monday, El Salvador's president, who refused to send Abrego Garcia back.
How can I return him to the United States? Like I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it.
The White House now arguing Abrego Garcia was not mistakenly deported, instead claiming he's a member of the violent gang MS-13. His family denies it, and he's never been charged criminally in either country. In the same meeting, President Trump also floated deporting U.S. citizens.
We also have homegrown criminals. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country, but you'll have to be looking at the laws on that.
Before the meeting, Trump can be heard on a live stream shared by the Salvadoran president's team. Trump telling Bukele he may need more prisons.
Homegrown's are next. The homegrown's built. You got to build about 5 more places.
Democrats responding to Trump's suggestion.
It would be unlawful and unconstitutional.
Meanwhile, a Tufts University student who was arrested by plainclothes ICE officers in Massachusetts submitting a court filing obtained by NBC News, which details the conditions of her holding facility in Louisiana as, quote, unsanitary, unsafe, and inhumane. In a hearing about the matter, the government arguing Rumeysa Ozturk should not be moved from the Louisiana detention center she has been in for nearly 3 weeks and sent back to Vermont. Now, as the Vermont judge hearing that case ponders his next move, he raised a question in a filing that's really central to both cases. He asked what happens if he orders Ozturk released and the government simply refuses to act, as they appear to be doing in the Garcia case, suggesting that could trigger a, quote, constitutional crisis. There is no specific timeline for when that decision will come, but immigration advocates and the White House are both watching closely.
Yeah, this is a problem. This is a big problem You have two different cases that one judge has already sat there and is yelling at the Department of Justice, is yelling at F-47's administration, saying, "No, you are about to be in contempt if that man is not brought back here. You are about to be in contempt." Anybody's ever been in jail? Anybody's ever been in court? The judge, if the judge says you're about to be in contempt, 9 times out of 10, you're about to be in contempt. Or if he orders you to do something, you have no choice. That is the ruling. You have to do it. So why are we saying this? Because F-47 and Pam Bondi, the cunt who is now the attorney general, who's nothing more than F-47's lapdog, because technically this would be the position of the AG. The AG would be the check and balance to the presidency in the event that a judge did rule saying, hey, your administration needs to take care of this. The AG has to be the one to make sure that it gets done, that it gets executed. But Pam Bondi is a lapdog. She is. I mean, she's not like the lapdog you see that's a teacup kettle dog where they have in purses and whatnot. She's basically Trump's lapdog. He bends over, she licks between the cheeks and says, "Thank you, may I have some more?" That's why she's sitting there saying, well, it's El Salvador's problem. Really? Because the president of El Salvador is saying, well, what can I do? What can I do? Can smuggle him back in there? These are people's lives. 2 people's lives that were swept up because of a man's arrogance, an administration's ignorance. And now they're trying to sit there and save face saying, oh, he's part of a gang. Really? Show the proof. Judge is yet to see it. And the other event of the woman that was also taken in, again, with her case, she spoke out against what is going on with Palestine. Her only crime, which I've always, I can't stress this enough. It is literally like watching the Vietnam War protests. Granted, it was well before my time in the 60s, but I'm a student of history. The government still went after people that spoke out against the war. People of color. Muhammad Ali was one of them. Black Panthers. Multiple other groups out there that spoke out against the war, and the government went after all of them. Now, how is this relevant to today? Because you can't say anything about Israel. Although Israel was the aggressor, Israel actually did more bombing than Hamas did. And Hamas is not Palestine, which a lot of people, because they watch Fox News, get the two put together. Palestine is unfortunately the collateral damage in between Israel and Hamas. But at the same time, if you speak out about Israel, oh, you must be anti-Semitic. No, because Israel is the biggest welfare queen on US's payroll. Netanyahu shows up every now and then to beg a little bit more to foreign funding, to which we do give every year. And I've yet to figure out, outside of a military stronghold, because that's the only reason they pay Israel, at the same time, why? Also, Trump's sitting there suggesting we need to send more of our homegrowns to foreign prisons. I'm sorry, this is the part where I sit there and I go, Democrats, how are y'all not literally and figuratively hitting the campaign trails? How are y'all not talking to people? How are you guys not using the law, using the Constitution? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, the 2 people I'm more pissed off at, the 2 groups of people I'm pissed off at, you 2A people, because again, it amazes me. Isn't this what you guys train for? You right to bear arms. My right to bear arms shall not be infringed. That group try to take it from me. Isn't this what you guys train for? A tyrannical government that might try to oppress you. And strangely, all y'all are quiet. Maybe it's because it's what you wanted. Maybe when you hear people of color being deported, you're sitting there saying, "That's great, kick them on back out, miracle." Not realizing that, oh, they're doing the jobs you don't want to do. And trust me, farmers out there will know immediately. Farmers are the first ones because, yes, they do employ people of color. Factories, yes, they do employ people of color. The service industry, yes, they employ people of color. The thing about this is every one of these industries to where people of color, not just Mexicans, Latinx, and all them, but just Haitians, Caribbeans, I can keep going down the list. If you start to deport those people, those businesses will suffer. And trust me, you don't think farmers are complaining now. Wait what happens when you remove the help. But oh, Trump has a plan for that because you know what he wants to do? He wants to solve immigration. He really does. He really does. And you know how he wants to solve immigration? By floating a plan for undocumented farm and hotel workers to work legally in the U.S. Because he says if you have a corporate sponsor, you can actually still come in under a work visa. Think about that for a second. We are now introducing a very modernized indentured servitude, because in order for you to come to our country, you must work for us. Ooh, I didn't think indentured servitude was still around. But even though he says in his plan, although half-assed as it is, sat there and said that you would need a corporate sponsor to speak for your well-being. That, my friends, is bullshit. Because again, Republicans do not care about immigration. I'm going to tell you why they don't care about immigration. They don't care about immigration because at the end of the day, all they care about is position, power, and themselves. That's why I never could understand women that vote Republican or black people that are Republicans. Unless you're rich. That is the only two groups of people I'll never understand. Women, they are literally against you. People of color, they have always been against you. And yet, you call yourself Republicans. At the same time, we're seeing people of color getting rounded up, put in modern day internment camps, being sent off to prisons that when you find out they're innocent, you're doing nothing to get them back. And at the same time, F-47 and his administration are giving a middle finger to everybody. Again, how is it at this point that I'm not shouting violence. I'm not advocating violence. I am advocating for good trouble. I am advocating that F-47 needs to understand, and his administration needs to understand, that as much as you were elected, you can be removed. But at the same time, how many more people being moved, being shuffled, being taken, simply put, because they don't agree with the status quo, is going to take before some action's getting done? But you 2A people, you're oddly quiet, because I figured if anybody's rights were being infringed upon, y'all would be the ones at the front line. But hey, I guess that's the difference between an actual patriot and a keyboard warrior. But move right along, guys. IRS, I cannot believe I'm saying this. 25% of IRS workers are planning to take the buyout offer. Remember just a few months ago where President Musk and F-47 decided that they wanted to cut the Internal Revenue Service in half and sat there and we're going to give everybody buyouts. And then we found out that, again, everybody that thought about this was like, Trump's never paid anybody. He never has. He's actually screwed anybody that's ever did work for him or actually has worked for him. At the same time, do you really want to trust somebody by saying, hey, I'm going to take this buyout and get severance pay and think you're going to get it? Well, unfortunately, 25% of workers may actually fall for the Kool-Aid. And I'm going to go ahead and say it like this. Trump has never paid anybody. And at the same time, the cuts to the IRS will be a major blow. Now, the IRS has extended some deadlines in some states. I know Tennessee being one of them. But again, if you hamper a group like the IRS, it's like hampering the U.S. mail service. Yes, it's on life support right now. That's only because it's been starved. Funding has been stripped from it. Personnel has been taken from it. They have increased prices. They have closed down areas trying to keep themselves alive. The U.S. Postal Service is on life support. The IRS can be the exact same way if you strip it, if you choke it, and you divide it of its resources. Republicans playbook one-on-one on how to privatize stuff. Because again, even though Musk is, I guess, not in the White House because he's too busy trying to save his Tesla stock, he wanted to basically take over. Privatization is the name of the game, and that's what they wanted to do, and still will continue to try to do. But hey, for you IRS workers, I hope y'all don't take it, because I hate for y'all to be sitting home thinking that F-47 is going to pay you, and then all you're going to get is the rope-a-dope. I'm just saying. But the thing I don't get here is, guys, is like I said, going back to the trade, the tariff thing. I said it before at the beginning of this program: F-47 versus China, the landslide win, the landslide match that nobody wants, because you're not going to beat China. Let me stress that very heavily. China has really covered the market. They have. 9 times out of 10, most of what we use, almost close to 80% of all products that come into the US come from China, which means that if China, which we know now because Trump wants to do this whole trade war thing, and we now know that that's not going to end well, and we now know that China is just going to up it whenever he does something, again, it's a lopsided battle, because tariffs do not, as much as they love to say this, tariffs do not create domestic production. They just choke the life out of the consumers. I mean, even now, and let me know in the comments, does anybody think that the economy is better with these tariffs? They're not. Even though, let's be honest, F-47 has market manipulation. That's what it comes down to. He'll want to do these tariffs, then he'll do 90 days. Then he wants to kick something in, then he brings it back. Has anybody ever noticed that a lot of his buddies are buying up stock along with politicians? Although politicians are not able to buy or trade stock themselves, you can do it through a third party. That's also a problem, but that's for another day. But this whole time he's been buying and selling, buying and selling the whole tariff thing. The market has been volatile, very volatile, to the point to now where China has sat there and said, you know what? Every time you tax us a tariff, we're going to raise a tariff. And last time I checked, it was like, I think we raised, F-47 raised 128% in tariffs against China. Whereas on the other side, China sat there and said, cool, 146% to you. And again, it is a lopsided battle. Weird. And I mean, I hate to break F-47. You're not going to win the battle on this. Tariffs have never worked, neither during your first run, and they're definitely not going to work during your second one. But try to convince us that, all these companies are calling, all these countries are calling me, crying, talking about, please, let down tariffs. I love that one reporter. Which country called you? I can't talk about that. So nobody. Again, F-47, full of shit. Who knew? Outside the rest of us. But alas, there is, I guess, some thinking on F-47's part, because just like he's doing the tariffs on China, the exemption list is getting ever so longer.
The 125% tariff on all U.S. goods sold in China. This comes after President Trump placed a 145% tariff on Chinese imports. And now we're learning of a possible reprieve on certain products. ABC News senior White House correspondent Selena Wang has the latest from Washington.
Hey, Ike, as the U.S.-China trade war heats up, the Trump administration is exempting smartphones, laptops, and other electronics from his reciprocal tariffs. That's according to a bulletin posted by U.S. Customs Border Protection late Friday night. Now, those exemptions also include solar cells, flat panel TV displays, flash drives, computer processors, memory chips, and semiconductor-based storage devices. So this is some relief for big tech companies like Apple, which relies on China to assemble the iPhone. UBS had estimated that the cost of the new iPhone 16 Pro Max could jump by $950 under the 145% tariffs that Trump has imposed on all goods from China. And right now, there appears to be no end in sight for the U.S.-China trade war. China has imposed 125% tariffs on American goods, and those steep tariffs go into effect today. The White House has said that there currently are no negotiations happening between the U.S. and China. Now, this trade war is painful for both countries. Last year, the U.S. imported $440 billion worth of goods from China, everything from toys, clothes to electronics. Those reciprocal tariffs, those are going to hurt American farmers. China buys more soybeans from the U.S. than any other country. All of this is hurting small businesses as well, not just consumers that could face those higher prices. I visited a toy store in Virginia, and the owner told me that virtually everything she sells in her store is either made in China or made with parts from China. Ike?
I mean, I'm just saying. I apologize. I got the numbers backwards. It's actually 125 China, 145 the U.S. Still crazy as far as what they're exempting. And people are wondering, well, what are they exempting this for? Well, it's easy. His buddies are going to take the hit. Every one of F-47's buddies are taking the hit. The big three automakers will take a hit. Small businesses will obviously take a hit. The only ones that are really going to be coming out of this smelling like a rose, if anything, will more than likely be businesses that are actually logistics distributors, because the costs get passed on to the consumer. And at the same time, everybody, this could all simply be stopped if one person, F-47, decided that, you know what, it's not a good idea. Tariffs have never led to anything, and me raising prices on the American people is just going to basically drive them toward me with pitchforks, not toward me with love. But that's not the only thing that Trump has said that should make people worried. I said this last week, and it seems that for pharmaceuticals, they are also maybe under tariffs, which again, if you need medication like I do, you're a little bit nervous.
Tariffs. The administration taking steps to implement new tariffs on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals. Our senior political correspondent, Rachel Scott, is at the White House with the details for us. Good morning, Rachel.
Michael, good morning. And the White House is laying the groundwork for the president to invoke national security to impose new tariffs on semiconductors and on pharmaceuticals. This could have a big impact on Americans across the country. Semiconductors, traditionally made outside of the United States, are used to power everything from cars to smartphones. And on pharmaceuticals, the raw ingredients used to make most medicines are also made overseas. Experts warn that could drive up the prices on over-the-counter drugs like ibuprofen. But the president is insisting that all of that needs to be made here in the United States. And some tech companies, including NVIDIA overnight, have responded to his demand for manufacturing here in the United States. But it will take time for those productions to get up and running. Meanwhile, the White House, the Trump administration, continuing these negotiations on trade with other countries. The vice president says there is a good chance that the U.S. will reach a trade agreement with the UK, but not at the negotiating table is China. Those 145% tariffs on Chinese imports are still in place, Michael.
And Rachel, it's a new day and it's a new lawsuit for President.
Yeah. And again, goes back to this whole thing. If you're on a medication or you're taking medication and he's going to try to use national security. Now, keep in mind, we've already sat there and said Republicans do not care about people's health, because they've already turned around and have tried to repeal the $35 cap on diabetes, on insulin medicine. They've already tried to go after, reverse the whole idea of Medicare possibly negotiating drug prices. Because, again, let's not forget, when it comes to pharmaceutical companies and health insurance companies, they love to play ping pong. Oh, we don't set the prices, they do. We don't set the prices, they do. You're the ping pong ball. Because somebody, whether they make it or whether they bill you for paying for it, somebody sets the prices. And now the tariffs are going to make that even harder or difficult to even get. And trust me, that shouldn't be the case, especially if you need life-saving or life-maintaining medication. But we'll follow that story as it comes along. But for all those people that voted for Trump, well, you're getting around to the FO part. But speaking of FO, and again, I got to stress this very heavily, I want to know who the doctor that sat there and said his F-47 is in excellent health, citing results of physical and frequent victories at golf. The president, of course, has his own personal physician. The personal physician has to inspect the president, make sure that he is fit for office. Well, apparently, and I still can't believe I'm saying this, that they sat there and said that he is fully fit and that he is in excellent health. And they try to say he is 224 pounds and 75 inches tall. So about 6'2", 6'3". Are you? Okay. 224 pounds? Really? That guy. 224 pounds. Let's okay. Okay. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying. I am not trying to fat shame at all. But you're gonna sit there and tell me this dude, not first off, he's not 6'3". I've been around dudes that I have family members. I'm short and I'm 6'2". I am the shortest one in my family. I have brothers and cousins bigger than me, and I'm 6'2". You're sitting there telling me that Bendejo is 6'3" and 224 pounds on what NBA 2K profile? I'm sorry. This is the part where, again, if you're gonna sit there and tell me that he's not only fit, not only mentally fit, this is why I sit there and I say this, I stress this very heavily. Whoever is the physician that looked at F-47 and said this man is fit when he looks like expired white privilege. This man looks like what happens when you leave cottage cheese out in the sun too long. You're going to sit there and tell me he's physically fit? He's literally a linebacker weight, and on top of that, he's 6'3"? Nah. That doctor's credentials need to be checked right along with his bank account. Because I'm sorry, I know we are supposed to be as journalists, as those that are just putting the news out there, we are supposed to be neutral. Frack that. Ain't no way. I'm sorry. That just goes to show you that it's nothing but a praise run for him. Everybody praises him. It's so effing creepy and dictatorish. Even his physician. Oh, well, thanks to his frequent victories at golf, the man plays golf every weekend. He bills the Secret Service to go protect Mar-a-Lago while he, on the back end, gets paying himself having celebrity tournaments every weekend. This man, between Thursday and Friday, flies Air Force One to Mar-a-Lago, plays golf, and then comes back. He treats the presidency like it's an 8 to 5, and he's only there for 4 hours. But you're going to sit there and tell me this man is physically fit and 6'3". Miss me with that bullshit. That also being said, guys, I'm sorry. That got me. I'm sorry. That right there got me. But I will say this. Switching Democrats for a second. Democrats, I will give you something. Because I know a few podcasts back, I called y'all cowards. I wanted y'all to fight back so freaking hard because you guys screwed Madam Vice President. You did. You didn't give her the full 2 years she needed to actually run the presidency. I mean, don't get me wrong, she did great with the 8 months that she had. But again, Biden should have dropped that a long ass time ago. Should have. At the same time, Madam Vice President Harris did what she could. And I sat there and told the Democrats, I sat there and told you guys on this podcast, you guys are cowards. When you were more worried about decorum, where Jasmine Crawford and AOC and others were like, no, we ain't got to take this mess. And again, I called you out on that. But you guys are turning a leaf. I mean, Cory Booker making history, ousting a racist as the longest running filibuster in history. Because again, the first time the first person held that was Strom Thurmond, he was a racist sumbitch. And Cory Booker, which again I think is very on top of Black magic, Black history, and also because we are a magical people, broke that and became the new filibuster holder. Now, also that being said, I am so proud that Democrats are doing something that they usually wait till election year to do: actually talk to people.
In these town halls going on across the country, Democrats seem to be going on the offense. They're taking aim at Republican congressional seats with these town hall events in red districts. Over the weekend, Senator Cory Booker joined Senator Mark Kelly and Congressman Greg Stanton in Arizona's 6th district to criticize the Republican representative there. Have a listen.
This is the time for us to put inordinate pressure in all kind of peaceful, nonviolent ways. Call to the moral conscience of the very people that have your healthcare, have our healthcare systems in their hands. And one of them is in this district.
We have to make this real for the American people. And members of Congress, including the representative from this very area, need to understand that if they vote to cut off health care for over 100,000 Arizona 06 residents, you ain't winning your next election. You're going down.
There's some strong words there, Rachel. Democrats clearly see an opportunity to flip some key seats in Congress. What's the strategy here? How is it playing in these Republican districts, and how are Republicans responding?
Well, James, Republicans are responding by just canceling town halls. A lot of them are not holding them right now. And that's from advice they got from on high. They didn't want the headlines to create this narrative of upset constituents, overrunning town halls. It's risky. I mean, because then you look like you're not responsive to your constituents. But in terms of Democratic strategy here, I kind of find it interesting because Democrats right now in these town halls, and Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader today, is going to be giving the speech about Social Security. They're talking about entitlements. They're talking about health care, cuts to Medicaid. And, I think that made a lot of sense a couple of weeks ago. A lot of Republicans on the Hill were looking at cuts to Medicaid. It was 100% the plan. But since then, Donald Trump has really pushed back on the party, both publicly and privately, and told them that they're not allowed to touch Medicare. I mean, so I kind of wonder if this is a little bit of a risk for Democrats to sort of put it out there and say, look, the Republicans are coming after your health care. I wonder why they're not sort of reorienting themselves to current polling. We're showing that people are now blaming Donald Trump rather than Joe Biden for their economic woes. I mean, there was polling this weekend, CBS News, showing that more people blame Trump than Biden. And so I wonder if they're sort of missing an easy opportunity to dunk on Republicans there.
Not just an easy opportunity. This is where I'm just like, go for the freaking neck. I have been saying this the whole entire time, and many voters have been saying this. We hate during the elections is the only time where you have your representatives here. Unless you're in Tennessee, then you got Marsha Blackburn, and then you have Governor Bill Lee, and dear God, Marsha Blackburn. Sometimes I just wish she could get hit by a bus. But anyway, again, that's the only time you seem to have them in election years. But Democrats are doing something different. They're doing town halls. Remember just a couple of podcast episodes ago, guys, we talked about the fact that Republicans tried to hold town halls. All of them crashed and burned because people who voted for F-47 was like, I didn't think it would happen to me. What happened to my 401k? I lost my job. I lost my house. We put you in there for us, and what did you do? You did everything that he wanted to do. Do you wonder why Republicans don't hold town halls anymore? Because much like customer service, nobody ever wants to work for customer service if management is crappy, because who are people going to try to get a hold of? Who are people going to get a hold of first? That's right. You and that customer service call center, and they're going to have a whole bunch of fire for you. But they'll try to say, it's not you. Republicans have learned to sit there and say, you know what? We're not going to do town halls anymore. Democrats, slide on in and talk. Let people know what's going on. Let people know that, yes, Republicans do want to go after your Medicare. Republicans have been wanting to go after Medicare since Bush 1.0. Republicans have been wanting to privatize that multi-billion-dollar money tree for the longest. Paul Ryan, when he was speaker, he wanted it badly. And now Mike Johnson, another lapdog for F-47, also wants to lead the charge. So yes, Democrats should say that, because are they lying? No, you're not saying anything that's lying. Republicans basically want to take your Medicare and give it to their rich friends. They did it with taxes already. The Trump taxes that are in place right now give billionaires those tax breaks, whereas the middle and lower class suffer. So at the same time, yes, you should be freaking honest about it. At the same time, challenge it. There's nothing wrong with challenging it. And I do love the fact that you do see Cory Booker, who probably will wind up being a presidential candidate in 2028. Will probably wind up being one. That is, if we do have a election. I'm just saying because F-47 did say, "Vote for me. It's the last time you'll ever need to vote." I'm just saying, but Democrats getting out there, reaching people, not waiting for an election season. That's all voters really wanted to ask for. They wanted to know that you have our interests and not just because you need our vote at this time. I hope Democrats keep up with it. I hope they push the envelope. I hope they go out there and make good trouble because they should. At the same time, Bernie Sanders at Coachella. If there's any way to reach young voters, this man has figured it out.
Buzzing from a surprise celebrity appearance. But on the festival's first weekend, it wasn't Lady Gaga or Green Day that broke the internet. It wasn't even a musical act. It was 83-year-old Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders.
The future of what happens to America is dependent upon your generation. Now, you can turn away and you can ignore what goes on, but if you do that, you do it at your own peril.
Sanders addressed thousands of screaming fans, many of them a quarter of his age. We want to bring in ABC News political director Avery Hart.
I'm just going to stop it right there because that's all we really need to see. The fact that at Coachella, one of the biggest musical celebrations out there, and a nearly 80-plus-year-old man went out there and sat there and said, "Hey guys, we need y'all to kind of be with us because if you're not, your future's screwed." And again, it doesn't take much. It's just outreach. It is the biggest thing I've sat there and said about this. It's always been outreach. If you literally and figuratively want to reach your constituents, it's that easy. Don't wait till election year to bring up issues. Don't wait till election year to actually speak to potential voters and reach all voters. Because for every Republican town hall, even Tim Walz is going out there, and that man's having a good old time with but he's reaching out to constituents. So Democrats, yes, midterms, you got a fighting chance. Midterms, you have a chance to take back the Senate and the House. You do. It just depends on what you do between here and another year from now. I hope you guys continue to do what you've been doing. I hope you guys continue to reach out, to make good trouble, to stir the pot, because that's how Republicans got it. That's how they got it. And of course, with F-47, pushing back his court cases and ducking and dodging them, like a man is trying to miss child support. That's how they got into the House in the first place. All Democrats are doing is following the same old playbook, but they're using logic instead of fear. You're actually pointing out issues instead of anger. But speaking of things that don't make any sense, I know we got through talking about potential presidential candidates, and I know, I'm just going to be honest, this person should not run for president, and yet, well, I'm just going to let this speak for itself.
Donald Trump, I will. And I'm not going to call him names and all of this stuff like stupid folks on the left doing, engaging in incendiary rhetoric. It's unnecessary, it's immature, and it's uncalled for. He's the president of the United States. Treat him with the respect that he deserves, but in the same breath, call him to the carpet for stuff that he's doing.
All right, that was Stephen A. Smith, host of ESPN's First Take. He's one of the most, maybe the most listened to sports commentator in America. Lately, he's been talking a lot about politics. And this week, he opened the door to a possible run for president in 2028. So joining me now, Stephen A. Smith. Thank you very much for being here on This Week. So
happy to be here.
We'll get to your possible political future in a second. But you said when Trump got elected, we should give him a chance. How's it going? I mean, what's your take on where Trump is now at day 80 plus?
Well, I don't like what I'm seeing, but I'm not surprised. I mean, this whole tariff war situation is utterly ridiculous. I mean, my attitude is that he should have immediately targeted China and not every nation on the planet, for crying out loud, just throwing tariffs at everybody. Ultimately, he dialed that back, as we saw over the last few days, and folks on the right are up in arms. Basically, I should say, I mean, positively, essentially saying that that was the plan all along. There doesn't appear to be a plan. Let's be very, very clear about that. It seems to be a bit very haphazard, and it's just thrown against the wall to see what will stick. But in the end, what you have to applaud them for is for trying something. We're spending about $2 trillion more, than we're raking in. We're losing our credit rating. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in the United States of America, financially, economically, that has been, tinkering towards disaster, and somebody had to do something. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, I can understand the need for tariffs, as Senator Elizabeth Warren had articulated. But in the end, what it comes down to is that it does seem to be a bit haphazard right now, and it seemed geared towards large businesses, when we all know small businesses is what makes this country thrive. And I don't see him targeting that nearly enough, but we shall see.
I mean, this is one thing he's been consistent on forever. He's been saying America gets ripped off in trade. He's been an advocate of tariffs, even before he was an advocate of, stopping immigration. What about this idea that we can bring back American manufacturing through tariffs? I mean, is that realistic? Is it plausible?
Well, listen, there are better minds than me that can answer that question. I can't see that happening. I think they've said that we've lost over 5 million manufacturing jobs over the last 20 plus years or so. I don't know if that's coming back, particularly with the age of AI, Chat GPT, and other things coming into the forefront. I just can't see that happening. But again, if that's the song that you want to sing to the American public, to the constituency out there that you think is going to vote for you, he seems very convincing in letting people know what he feels and getting them to see his way of thinking. But I think it's a byproduct rather, of the Democratic Party, and the fact that they don't seem to have any mission, any vision, any kind of leadership. They seem rudderless, to say the least. And now it's at a point where they're getting mocked religiously. And so as a result of that, you're going to look at him, and regardless of the troubles that you think he might bring forth, unless things become disastrous economically, the fact of the matter is the American people have already said during the last election, he's a bit more normal or closer to normal than the Democratic Party. And that's where the real problem lies. It's not it might be a two-party system, but there's only one party running this country right now, because the Democrats have no muscle whatsoever.
Well, let me ask you about the Democrats. So Elizabeth Warren talked about getting Congress to stop him. I mean, that's not really going to go anywhere. You got the House is controlled by the Republicans. So is the Senate. He's not going to sign anything in the law. And then we had Gretchen Whitmer, who's talked about as a possible candidate for president. She's tried to engage Trump. She was in the Oval Office. I'm sure you saw this. I mean, maybe we can bring up the picture. At one point, she seemed like she was trying to hide behind her own binder as Trump was praising her. What did you make of Whitmer trying to engage Trump?
Well, listen, she's the governor of Michigan. She has no choice but to do that. And anybody that thinks otherwise is just being foolish and immature and childish. The fact is that she's the governor of a state in the United States of America. You need to do business with the federal government. He's the president of the United States. You don't get to circumvent him. So as a result, you have to be an adult in the room and be prepared to do business. And anybody that would encourage her to do otherwise is just being utterly ridiculous. I was watching Bill Maher in real time. I'm sorry.
Well, let me ask you, though. She was there while he was signing these executive orders, basically asking his Justice Department to investigate, people that had criticized him. Should she have used that opportunity she's there to actually speak up on that?
Probably so. I mean, again, but the real issue is that whatever it takes to get business done is what we need to be focused on. Whatever her business is with that particular issue or her particular state, I understand that. The bigger picture here is that Elizabeth Warren was just on with you. You're going to have a multitude of Democratic representatives on with you. They talk and they talk and they talk, but what can they do? They positioned themselves to do absolutely nothing. I didn't hear anything about tariffs from the Democrats before the election. Trump had been preaching about this for the longest time. The way people decry his strategy, he's been bloviating about that. They said nothing about it. Instead, they talked about everything from woke culture to cancer culture to abortion rights and all of this other stuff. But that wasn't going to win the election. And that's what we have to look at. What is it going to take to get the job done? That's why somebody who's a sports analyst, for crying out loud, is in the daggone polls. It's not somebody big up in me. It's an indictment against a Democratic Party that doesn't have leadership and doesn't have a vision. And it's sad.
You know, I saw you mentioned Bill Maher. I saw Steve Bannon was on with Bill Maher, and he was asked what Democrats he worries about. And you know, the only name he mentioned as a Democrat he'd be worried about. So are you really thinking about running for president? Is this something you think?
Listen, I have no choice because I've had elected officials, and I'm not going to give their names, elected officials coming up to me. I've had folks who are pundits come up to me. I've had folks that got a lot of money, billionaires and others, and have talked to me about exploratory committees and things of that nature. I'm not a politician. I've never had a desire to be a politician. I just signed a contract extension with ESPN. I am very, very
pretty
happy
good one too
with my day job. I'm very happy with my bosses. It's a pretty damn good one. Just right. It's a pretty damn good contract. I couldn't be happier. But here's the reality. People have walked up to me, including my own pastor, for crying out loud, who has said to me, you don't know what God has planned for you. At least show the respect to the people who believe in you, who respect you, who believe that you can make a difference in this country, to leave the door open for any possibilities 2 to 3 years down the line. And that's what I've decided to do. But again, whether it's Westmore, Governor Westmore, who I know, or Governor Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, who I know, Andrew Cuomo, who I had the pleasure of interviewing, who's trying to get back in things, be the next mayor of New York, etc. I see a lot of people that obviously and clearly are more qualified than me. But in the same breath, when you think about what Trump is getting away with, when you think about what you brought up about Steve Bannon, who's trying to be slick because he's looking at a non-political individual like myself, looking at me as a populist, but you better be careful what you ask for, because some of the stuff that Trump and the right has been trying to get away with, like circumventing the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution, talking about how there could be a third term. Excuse me, be careful what you wish for, because if any GOP member, if any Republican supports that, I don't want to hear a word out of their mouth ever again about the following the Constitution, the Constitution, the Constitution. That's what they've been living off for years. And then you're talking about circumventing the 22nd Amendment, and you think that's cool? No way. That's not something that we should stand for. So I would hope somebody else would step up that's more qualified than me. But if it has to come down to me, it is something I would consider. Yes, I would, because I don't mind the thought of tussling with these folks at all, on the left or the right. All of them disgust me, to be quite honest with you.
All right, Stephen A. Smith, will you come back on?
Stephen A. Smith, everybody. Let me tell you, I apologize that video did run a little bit long, but I want to show the whole 8+ minutes of why Stephen A. Smith should not be president. Number one, you couldn't answer a single question. How do you feel about tariffs? Oh, I should leave that to people up more than me. Well, if you want to be the president, shouldn't you have an opinion? Or you're crapping on Democrats because it's too easy. It's too easy to crap on Democrats. Well, they're showing they have no control. They pretty much they have no skin in the game against the president. Forgetting the fact that Republicans own the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Not a lot you can do there, sir. At the same time, he wants to stand and say, well, it has to be me. No, it doesn't. You might be the top guy at ESPN. You might have signed a $100 million, multi-million-dollar deal for reasons beyond my comprehension that they decided to keep your black ass. But at the same time, president material, you are not. It's too easy. And I say this all the time. A lot of people who have a platform and have influence always believe that from that platform or from that influence level, they can go into the political world and do the same thing. Not only, you know what it is? It's very megalomaniac. It has to be me. No, it doesn't. You're just the loudest guy in the room. And we know you're not going to hold your own. LeBron proved that. At the same time, you said nothing. Stephen A. Smith is good for word salad. He's good for shocks. He's good for ratings. He's good for entertainment. The funny part is they said all that about F-47 before he became president or decided he wanted to run for president. And I'm sorry, I can't stand Stephen A. Smith. I think that he's overrated as an analyst. I think that he's just a guy that yells a lot. I think the guy, when he's put to fire, will reform immediately. Don't believe me? Go back to his time where he basically suggested about domestic violence and said that sometimes women may incite their own issues. And what happened? He was off air for a couple of days, and he comes back, and he's singing a different tune. No, I mean, doesn't really apologize. Some of my words may have been mistaken, misconstrued. Never apologized. And let's not forget, not too long ago, he decided to criticize LeBron's parenting over his son. And LeBron, being a parent, decided that, hey, no, me and you gonna have a conversation and don't care where we're at. And then took the nerve, and then you, instead of handling it, not very presidential candidate wise, you decide to go to your favorite cones of silence, if you will. You went to First Take, you went to your own podcast, you went to your own radio show, and you decided to act tough. You decided to puff up the chest a little bit. Sir, you are not presidential material. And I love the fact you keep on dipping your toe in the pool, talking about, oh, I should be. No, you're not. It's clickbait. You're just there to sit there and say, I'm thinking about it. And since you're thinking about it, you may or may not actually do it. That's all. And if anything, it just goes to literally show you, the man, there are a lot of people out there that would love to be president, but the presidency should not be treated like the easy to win prize of the county fair. I do believe that we do need to start adding some credentials and qualities to be president or be president-elect. But I'm sorry, Stephen A., you have been found wanting. Just saying. But again, I just thought that was nuts. But a couple more stories before we get to our feel-good segment, guys. The U.S. Naval Academy, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, because again, if you don't believe what's going on with the fact that books are just coming up missing everywhere, this story about the U.S. Naval Academy, where they have sat there and said the Nimitz Library at the U.S. Naval Academy has had 381 titles removed from its shelves. Want to know what a couple of those are? I know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibrahim Kendi, Bodies in Doubt by Elizabeth Reese, White Rage by Carol Anderson. They haven't been banned, but apparently they have been removed. Why? Because F-47 has basically put an executive order titled Ending Racial Indoctrination in K-12 Schooling, with language targeting what is called discriminatory equity ideology and gender ideology, which is basically him saying if it's written by people of color or of LGBTQ+, then it must be indoctrination. Let me go ahead and tell you how much of a load of shit that is. Because they've already tried this. Moms for Liberty have tried this. One of those insane terrorist groups out there that I call terrorists, they've tried it. At the same time, they have actually they wanted to get rid of To Kill a Mockingbird because it's about racism. Anybody that's ever read How to Kill a Mockingbird understands that that's the point of the entire book. Or Flowers in the Attic, The Diary of Anne Frank, Of Mice and Men, Dear God, It's Me, Margaret. There are several books out there, and that's just off the top of my head. Animal Farm, Charlotte's Web. I mean, these are the books that they want to get rid of because they swear this will basically convert children. It's the drag queen story time argument all over again, which, if you haven't noticed lately, who's been arrested are religious leaders and those who heavily against LGBTQ+ have been found, messing with children, having child porn, all that stuff. I've yet to see a drag queen get arrested for any of that. But again, they talk about indoctrination. We don't want our children to be indoctrinated. Books have never done anything but encourage kids to read more books. When you read, and again, this is why I say, you know what it is though? When you read, you think. When you read, you wonder. When you read, you imagine. When you read, you become something else, something more. And that's the thing that these people are scared of, that they don't want their children to think. They don't want their children to excel. They don't want their children to do anything but be to this rigid ideal that they think they're in. But if you want to talk indoctrination, go to religious schools. I'm just saying, if you want to talk indoctrination, then we can talk there. That's indoctrination. reading a book by a person of color is not indoctrination. It's actually how you do cultural awareness and acceptance. It's if you can literally read what's going on through another author's eyes, then maybe, just maybe, we could actually end racism properly. But again, with the Naval Academy, with state schools, education being under attack because apparently Vince McMahon's wife wants to turn around and basically send education back to the schools. Reading, I know it's going to be corny when I say this. Reading's fundamental. And right now, it's heavily essential. So again, if you can read the banned books, go to public libraries because it seems to be the last place you can find them outside of small bookstores. But support small bookstores as well. But a couple more stories, guys, and I cannot believe we're going to talk about this because here's the thing that Indiana has basically put a ban on if you're on SNAP benefits, you can no longer get snacks or sodas. But listen to the reason why.
Order removes candy and soft drinks from taxpayer-funded SNAP benefits. What do you think about that? More SNAP money is spent on sugar drinks and candy than on fruits and vegetables. That changes today. We're kicking off a study of diet-related chronic illness. When I gave a free biometric screening to every one of my employees after reforming it, number one asymptomatic issue was diabetes. And it's so easy to nip in the bud, and it's very expensive to remediate it. The goal is to empower Hoosiers to address root causes of chronic illness with preventions, nutrition, physical activity, and early screening. That is so important, early screening. Hoosier parents are concerned with negative effects of food dyes. I share those concerns. Today, our health department kicks off a new study on harmful effects from dyes and other food additives as well. I want to give every Hoosier kid any advantage possible to reach their full potential and lead a long and healthy life. Today, we're starting the Governor's Fitness Test and School Fitness Month to encourage exercise and physical activity in school and for our youth as well.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there just because, again, they go into this whole thing about how they're trying to do fitness programs, how they're trying to do studies. Let me explain something to you. It's not about that. Because the thing that always kills me is that folks, for all those that don't remember, I want to say it was almost 3-4 years ago, there was a story about, folks being mad that people on SNAP were buying whatever they wanted to buy because, that's what they could do. That, people who were hardworking and maybe didn't get the same benefits, those people can get shrimp and steak and get all this stuff on their SNAP, and I got to work 60 hours a week and I don't even qualify. So what did Republicans do in almost every state? They changed SNAP. Some of them went to a bullshit measuring system with an app. Some of them went back to old school scripts. And now Indiana wants to there and say, well, soft drinks and candy, you can no longer get with food with your food benefits. I wonder which group of people they're targeting. It's not that freaking hard, folks, because that's what it is. It's not about the fact of health. Because R.F. Kennedy, a man who really should not be Secretary of Health for various reasons, was there. And, again, because Indiana did vote for Trump, was trying to pass along this program because they got to figure out a way to blow money. A study on red dye, really? You've known for years because the FDA, not only the FDA, other watchdog groups have already sat there and said that the multiple ingredients in most candies and snacks and whatnot should honestly be banned because they're banned overseas. And instead of actually banning them here, you pretty much turned a blind eye to it. oh, but because now you guys run the show, now you're worried about kids' health. But what it really is, you guys want to control what people buy with their food benefits. That's all it's been. That's all it's always ever been. That, I've never understood if you yourself make enough to where you can sustain yourself or your family without food benefits or SNAP, good for you. It does not give you the right, however, to go to somebody else that does have those benefits, look in their refrigerator and say, "Oh, y'all shouldn't have this. Why do you need this for? This is for people that work." Because that's what you're really saying. You're really saying, let me look in your refrigerator and let me decide what you should have because you're not working as hard as I am because you have benefits and I don't. And that's what Indiana's doing. Yes, it's soft drinks and candy. But at the same time, like you're in my home state of Tennessee, they make sure if you get food benefits, if you get SNAP benefits, and if you're lucky to get them, they have a system that is so effing convoluted, a system that is so stupid that it's only designed to keep people from wanting to get the benefits. Imagine the fact that the entire architect that design is make it difficult, make it hard to access, but at the same time limit what people can get. Because that's all it is. All it basically is people who don't get benefits turning around and saying, "Oh, well, they shouldn't get that either." And Republicans going, "We agree." Because why? It's only happening in heavily red states. And I've always said it's amazing to me that you're going to be that goddamn nosy about what people put in their refrigerators. The least you can do is actually fill the motherfuckers up. Just saying. But next to last story, because we're getting to the end, guys. Again, F-47 taking on China is not the only people that are against him. Harvard has Harvard. Words are hard. Harvard would like to have a war with F-47.
Trump administration tonight firing back at Harvard University after the school basically set up a showdown with the Trump administration, rejecting some of the White House's demands on its policies. A White House spokesperson saying, in part, President Trump wants to end unchecked anti-Semitism and that Harvard's response could put its federal funding at risk. But Harvard's president says the university will not surrender its independence and that neither Harvard nor any other private university can allow itself to be taken over by the federal government. The Trump administration had something like 10 demands for Harvard, including the elimination of DEI programs and the restriction of acceptance of international students who are, and I'm quoting here, hostile to American values and institutions. Stephanie Gosk is joining us now. You couldn't think of a perhaps bigger name in the world of college universities to go basically head to head with the Trump administration on some of these controversial changes that the White House wants. What happens next here?
Well, it's interesting, Hallie. First of all, it's worth pointing out that Harvard receives $9 billion worth of federal funding from the government. And so that's a real hammer that the government has and can hold that above Harvard University to try to get them to make some of these changes. This letter that Harvard received on Friday night is really long, and it has a lot of very specific things that they are calling on the university to do to get this funding. Among them are things like hiring an independent third party to determine whether there's anti-Semitism on campus and in the curriculum. Also to make sure that there's diversity of opinion on campus. And you've heard a bunch of White House officials, including the vice president himself, talking about how there is throughout our universities, a kind of sickness where there is no diversity of opinion. And this is clearly part of an effort to change the way universities operate. And they're holding this funding, which is really how research is done at universities, in large part because of this funding. They are holding that over the heads of schools and universities around the country.
Harvard is a wealthy school.
So let's just go ahead and kill it right there, because let's be honest. I almost want to sit there and hear. I almost want to sing Twisted Sisters, "We're Not Gonna Take It," because let's get to the reason. I just want to just blow this up really quickly. For all those that don't know, because F-47 believes that DEI is a cancer that must be cut out of everything, has forced American colleges to either comply or basically have their funding removed, or even their tax deal status, which again is also on the table. As you can see right there, guys, F-47 has said reduce the power of students and faculty members in university affairs. Oh, that's not alarming at all. Implement merit-based admissions and hiring practices while limiting DEI. Yeah, that doesn't sound wrong at all. Report foreign students who are hostile to American values and institutions. If you see something, say something, is what they want. And leave it to Harvard of everybody to sit there and say, bitch, please. And again, much like the governor of Maine, they are sitting there standing firm. And I'm not one to knock an Ivy League school. I mean, I never had the inclination to go to Harvard, but this actually makes me root for Harvard a little bit, because you should stand up. There should be like, why do you believe that, again, a lot of people sit there and say DEI is a cancer? Well, everybody, I say this all the time. Anybody who immediately talks that DEI needs to be removed, I'm checking to see what pigment they are first. Because if they are definitely sandpaper napkin, I'm like, yep, knew it. Because the only ones that are complaining about DEI are the ones that already have white privilege. Let me say that again. The ones who are complaining about DEI are the same ones that see white privilege, are actually blind to their white privilege, but they know it's there. And at the same time, you want to say, well, everybody should be hired based on their merits. Really? 1950 to 1970s would like to have a word with you. Because it is amazing to me how we sit there and say, well, we're at that age now, because a lot of people don't think that we need DEI. In the same sense, people don't think we need affirmative action. Yes, you do. Because without that, employers would be free to say, oh, so we can pick whoever we want to pick and not have to worry about being sued for discrimination? Cool. We don't have to pick women, or we don't have to put women in certain positions, or we have to put people of color in certain positions. If we remove DEI, cool. Because the only people that win out of DEI are white folks. They're the winners. Everybody else has to work harder. We get set back to the 1940s. We get set back to the 40s, almost damn near the Roaring 20s, when you remove DEI, when you remove affirmative action. Because trust me, we saw what happens when the college acceptance for affirmative action is removed. When college acceptance, for a lot of people to understand, here's the thing that you don't get. When just last year, where Supreme Court had ruled that you can remove the college acceptance portion of affirmative action, that cascaded into the elimination of DEI programs, DEI initiatives, folks that were actually hired to be the DEI coordinators or directors in their in corporations and so far and so forth. It's the reason why Target looks a little less black now. It's the reason why certain Walmarts look like pretty much ghost towns, because those companies have decided to move DEI programs, DEI initiatives, especially in Target, where Target had enjoyed having people of color, including Miss Tabitha Brown, on their payroll. It got to the point to where Miss Tabitha Brown had to come on there and say, oh, black people, I understand it's a tough time right now, but please keep shopping there. Please keep shopping there, because my endorsements come from Target, in so many words. But at the same time, we've seen DEI, not just in stores. We saw what happened with Joy Reid. Joy Reid, a prominent voice on MSNBC. We saw what happened to her. We saw what happened to prominent black figures across multiple networks that are being removed and are being replaced with white folks. The only winners out of DEI programs are white people. And when they win, they're quiet. When people of color win, they complain. Tell me I'm wrong, and then I'll call you out. But that being said, the last story that we got, guys, is a reason why I keep on saying I can understand why there's less teachers. I can understand why we have less educators in the public school system for stories like this. An Indiana mom decided to go confront the teacher and in doing so, took a firearm with her to school. The teacher in this case is a lesbian who keeps a pride flag in class, and apparently believes that the teachers' association is the reason for her daughter's drop in grades, to the point to where she decided to take a gun to school with her, as she stated, like every other person does when they get a gun and get caught with it. Oh, we got it for protection. It's for protection. Now, I won't even begin to get into how alarming it is that every time the news pops up, you're immediately thinking of school shooting. Not only that, if you got kids in school, you're hoping it's not the school your kids are in. But a school shooting nonetheless becomes too often, too common, and I hope we don't get desensitized to it. But the crazy part about this is this woman decided that she's going to basically take a gun to talk to her teacher. And she even sat there and said to kiss your kids goodbye. And I'm just like, you didn't come up there to talk. You came up there to end a life. And if you came up there to end a life, which again, this is the part where I'm a little concerned that not only did she say that, but she actually was released by the police. Yes, she got released by the police as this woman was sitting there telling this teacher, God will condemn you to hell. You're a child predator. You might as well kiss your kids goodnight because you never know when your God says it's our time to be prepared. If a parent decides to threaten a teacher, that parent should not be released on their own reconnaissance. Because we're never going to follow this story because, again, the fact that this woman thought it was okay to bring a gun to school because she believed that her daughter's grades were slipping because of the teacher, not understanding that, look, if this is the behavior that you bring to this school, I can understand why your kid's fucking up. Because it definitely ain't the teacher's fault. It's homegrown. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. The most dangerous group of people out there in the U.S. right now is the American napkin, because they never see themselves as terrorists. They imagine themselves as patriots. They're really domestic terrorists of the worst kind, delusional ones. But that being said, guys, we are going to move on to our feel-good segment because usually on How the Fact Got Here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes make you use your faith in humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow is pre-Friday, which is Thursday. And again, we try to leave you out some good vibes, some positivity that we try to leave you out on because we still got 2 days of this long-ass work week to go on. And of course, this story right here, I just love to talk about exceptional kids. And this kid right here, this young lady, I should say, let me not say kid, this young lady that's graduating got accepted to multiple colleges. Again, a feat that should be not only celebrated, but definitely should give her flowers as well.
Time for college admissions. Most high school seniors find out between mid-March and mid-April where they'll be accepted, and the competition is closer than ever. Chase Matthews will go pretty much anywhere she wants to. The senior at Westlake High School in Atlanta has been accepted to, get this, 155 colleges and universities. That includes at least one in every state. And Chase is kind enough to join us now. First of all, congratulations. Your family must be so proud. What made you apply to all these schools?
Thank you so much. What made me apply? I wanted to show to young girls and young children, my generation, that we can do anything and you can go wherever you want.
Is this a record?
Yes, it is.
So Guinness is probably going to be reaching out anytime. Obviously, you're a good student. What else do you think makes you such an attractive candidate?
I think what also makes me an attractive candidate is my dedication to the arts as well as what I do outside of school. Outside of school, I'm in my school's marching, jazz, symphonic, as well as musical bands, and DECA, and 2 pathways, and a member of the Atlanta Music Project in downtown Atlanta, as well as a member of National Honor Society.
Oh, so you are busy. You are busy. And we also understand that the scholarship offers have been pouring in. And give us a sense of how much you're talking about.
$6 million in institutional scholarships.
Congratulations. So obviously your parents are relieved. It sounds like a free ride ahead at the location that you ultimately decide. What do you want to go to school for?
I want to go to school for pre-pharmacy.
Okay. All right. And so what would you like to do with that ultimately?
With that, I like to open my own chain of pharmacies as well as mobile pharmacies to make medicine more accessible and affordable for communities.
Fantastic. Well, we will have you back on once you do that. We see that coming in your future. The big question for now, the drum roll, have you decided which school you're going to go to?
No, but I do have a top 5.
Okay. Can you give us a sense of the top 5?
All right. We have Florida A&M University, The Ohio State, Hampton University, Howard University, as well as Southern University, all having 6-year accelerated pharmacy programs where I can receive my doctorate of pharmacy in 6 years instead of the usual 8.
What's ultimately going to help you narrow it down from those 5 to the final one?
Just the environment. I'm looking for a familial environment as well as a supportive group of teachers and students on campus.
When will you ultimately decide?
By decision day. So watch out for me on May 1st.
May 1st. All right. Okay. So you still have a little bit over a month. Okay. Chase Matthews, once again, congratulations. All the best to you. Hope you'll come back on once you open up those pharmacies.
Thank you so much.
You know, this is that. Look, I will always celebrate individuals that can pull off amazing things. Chase Matthews, ma'am, 155 colleges and universities, well over $6 million in scholarships. I know your parents are like, thank you, Jesus. If you have not seen college tuition, you'll understand why. If you haven't, you won't know. If you have, you'll probably understand with me because, whoo, that's a weight off her shoulders. I will say that. But again, love to see it. I love to see Black excellence. And again, I will always sit there and say it. I am very biased. I root for everybody Black, simply put. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. I do thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know it's live. I certainly appreciate it. Before I do get out of here, shameless plugging, because, yeah, we do that thing. Shout out to APR TV. Why? Because How the Frack We Got Here can be seen on there. Definitely check out APR TV. Always press record on the Roku channel or on Amazon Fire TV. Definitely check them out as well as other shows on there as well. BlurredStation.com. I have talked about this many a time, guys, because Tubi is great, but Tubi is owned by the same guys who own Fox, and Tubi is now almost approaching $300 million in value, and that's because of our content, our viewership, most importantly, our dollars. We can do the same thing with Blurred Station. Again, it has movies, television shows, animation, comics, you name it, it's there. Definitely check them out by hitting the Join Now button, selecting the Blurred's Eye View Affinity membership, selecting any affiliate there. We'd appreciate it. At the same time, guys, it's $10.99 a month to stream Blurred Station. $10.99 a month, and Blurred Station can be streamed on all devices. Let's hype this up the same way we hype Tubi, because this actually helps us put the money back in our pockets. But definitely check out BlurredStation.com. Finally, run for office. You want to know how Moms for Liberty did it? You want to know how the crazy people did it? You want to know how F-47 got people to join in? Well, they all started here. If you do feel the call to serve publicly, whether it's nationally or locally, definitely check out Run for Office. Type your address there. It'll actually help you as far as how to get on the ballots, how to get elected, and hopefully to be running. I cannot stress enough, guys, that we do need to have more people in offices. Not just the House, not just the Senate. I am talking the state offices as well, because trust me, I live in Tennessee. Tennessee, outside of maybe a handful of people that work in that legislative house, are good. The rest of them, effing idiots. And our senators are terrible. Our governor is an idiot. And yet the state will constantly vote itself red and shoot itself in the foot. We can change things. All you gotta do is be an actor. And by actor, I mean getting involved. But definitely check out runforoffice.org. As for myself, guys, How the Frack We Got Here on all socials. We can be found on Facebook. We can be found on YouTube. We can be found on Instagram. We can be found on TikTok. Again, like, share, subscribe. a lot of these guys like PBS, we can't do this without you. We want to grow in so many areas, but we need your help. We need your assistance. Get the word out. I've had people sit there and tell me that they do watch me, and I appreciate it. But tell other folks, share it, like the stuff, because again, we fight the algorithm. I have to fight the algorithm against Logan Paul. I have to fight the algorithm against Mr. Beast. I have to fight the algorithm, not only myself, but me and my podcast brethren. We all have to fight this algorithm. And the only way we can actually beat it is involvement. So please like, share, subscribe. Again, also interact. I am completely okay with talking to folks. I promise you I don't bite. But yeah, we need you. At the same time, speaking of my podcast brethren, again, check out a lot of them. Room Full of Blurs, Safari TV, Blurred's Eye View, Navy Montel, Geek by Heart, Showquo. There's, like I said, Mayhem Media. There's a lot of us out there. And I promise I'll actually have a graphic to where everybody's links can be found. But again, like, share, talk about it, move forward. That's how we're going to get through these next 3 years. And also, guys, stop doom scrolling. I understand. F-47 does something every time. The first thing we're doing was a panicking. But guys, don't doom scroll, okay? Every day, do something that makes you happy. Do something that brings you peace. Check on your people. At the same time, if you have the ability to make somebody smile, whether it's for a minute or a lifetime, do that. The world could use more of that. Because again, the world, 3 years is going to be rough, but take care of you first. And then help everybody. And then help everybody if you can. Just saying. But the last thing I'll say about Frank, we got here, it's all about staying informed. We basically, guys, believe in informed. When you're informed, you make better decisions. And that's how we're going to get through this. Much like how we used to say, well, when we elected our first black woman to the Supreme Court, Johnny Brown Jackson, when we elected our first black woman to federal board of federal governors, Kiara Brown, when we at one point thought we almost had it, but I still think it's possible that we can elect our first black woman to be the first Madam President. They can all be great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat them. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up at our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians, but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here? Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Protect your peace. And I promise we'll get through this. Peace.